I get asked all the time, where do you get such good outcomes? How do you know how to do this stuff? Really, it's from time in the trenches from my great-grandfather to my grandfather to my dad, and my dad taught me. And I want to share with you a couple special lessons that my dad taught me. Hey, this is Dr. Jason West coming at you with a century of healing. I've got a whole bunch of requests of people wanting to know what makes the clinic unique, why we have people coming from all over the place, and the many different treatment interventions that my great-grandfather taught my grandfather taught my dad, and my dad taught me. So this is a real quick overview of the West Clinic. So the West Clinic started in 1916. It'll be 102 years in January. It was started by my great-grandfather, Arthur West, and he was a professional musician. And his wife, my great-grandmother Alice, was always sick, and he took her to a newfangled type of doctor, a chiropractor in Ogden in the early 1900s, and he helped her. And my great-grandfather said if he ever had his career over again, he would be a chiropractor. He got the opportunity to leave his family here in Pocatello, Idaho, and go back to Chicago and become a doctor. He started practice in 1916, right before the worldwide flu. He actually got a great reputation for helping people with the worldwide flu. And then because we were so close to the railroad, downtown Pocatello, it was a big railroad spur at the time, that he used to have a lot of railroad executives take a train to Pocatello, have him work on him, and then they would get on the train and leave. And he was actually the one that started this process of having people come here and then receive care for services and then go back home. And we've actually had generations of people coming from my great-grandfather's patients. When they go on vacation, they'll come here, they'll go to Yellowstone, and they'll come into the office and get treated. Well, shortly after that, my grandfather started practice in 1930, shortly after Black Friday of the Depression, and it really, really affected him. He didn't really trust banks, and he was always concerned that there was another depression coming. And the story of my great-grandfather or my grandfather was that he would take the money out of the office, put it in his hat, put the hat on his head, and then walk home and basically had a sock drawer that they would put money in. That was the story that my dad always told me about my grandfather. But he was really, really good at two types of techniques. One called sacro-occipital technique, where you do different adjustments on the sacrum and the cranium. And we actually had a really neat video about restoring someone's hearing and also taste and how you can change polyps and help with endonasal stuff. That was all of the things that my grandfather taught my dad and my dad taught me. He also was really good at iridology, looking at eyes and seeing different organ structures related to the eyes. He was joined in practice by my dad in 1961, and my dad really got into functional medicine at the time when it wasn't even popular, did a whole bunch of blood chemistry analysis and the treatment of organ conditions and sickness through blood chemistry analysis and the right nutrition. And then he got into homeopathy. I'm really biased. My dad is super duper. I would say he's my favorite doctor and a fantastic healer. Practiced for 50 years. He passed away in 2011. But he taught me some really, really important lessons that I wanted to share with you. And one of the lessons that he taught me, he loved to go testify in court as an expert witness. And he always said that he loved to be able to educate the jurors and the judge and the plaintiffs and the defense attorney. I went to court once and said I'd never want to do that again because it was just something that it wasn't my lane. But my dad left to be an expert witness, and I covered his practice. And everybody that came into the office that day, I literally couldn't take care of because they had these weird, unusual conditions. There was urticaria vasculitis, there was heme pass erythropoiesis, I can't even say it. Some guy's teeth was falling out, another had adrenal exhaustion, chronic migraine, hormonal headaches was another one. And I just felt like, man, I just don't know if I made the right career decision because I can't treat any of the people that are coming into the office. And when he came back from his expert witness testimony, he said, son, how did it go? And I looked at him and I said, Dad, I just don't know what I'm doing. And he put his arm around me and he said, Jason, I need to teach you an eternal principle. One is you can never, ever stop improving yourself. And number two, you haven't paid your dues yet. You got to learn more. And he said, what school teaches you is how to not be a menace to society. What practice teaches you is that practice is an art. And once you learn how to treat people and that they know that you can help them, then it's a whole different world. So get out there and learn whatever is of interest. And so that's why I made a commitment to go to a continuing education seminar every month. Usually most doctors are required to do one every year. I did one every month. I've been doing that for 17 years. And I've had some really neat things happen in my career. I've been Doctor of the Year twice. I wrote a #1 bestseller. I've been in 3 documentaries. But my proudest professional moment was in about 2007, 2008. After work, everybody left the office, and my dad and I were talking about how to solve the problems of the world. And he paused for a minute and he said, "Jason, I would go to you now." And when he told me that, it was one of the best feelings ever, because I felt like 7 years in practice, I had paid my dues. And we've been able to do some really, really neat things in clinical practice. And it's not me just saying it. I've got tons of video blogs and written testimonials and video testimonials. But the family history of the clinic, where it started with my great-grandfather 100 years ago, he taught my grandfather taught my dad, and my dad taught me. That's why we get some of the most amazing clinical outcomes that you'll see and you'll hear about, because it's a family history of 100 years in the trenches. And that's the real quick overview of the office and the clinical history. I do have 5 sons. A couple of them are telling me that they want to go into healthcare. And if they do that, they'll continue, and it'll be actually 5 generations. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, please give us the thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.